God, just looking at her like this, I'm more.
Oh
Jesus
my God!
fuck.
I'm always watching, Wazowski. Always watching.
That thing is.
Maybe same
You can't look away.
The
It
600-pound
burns
train wreck.
You can't look away because there's so much of that.
Oh God!
I think it's great
How
that
did-
8 guys can just savagely roast a pig live on YouTube.
That's what she
The
is.
Legion hog roast, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that should be a segment. You find a morbidly obese pig and highlight the fact that he's morbidly
I'm
obese.
right here.
That girl weighed more than everyone in that room combined.
Yeah, so much so she thought it was dinner.
Oh my
Still
God!
barely-
Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Let's roll on to the next segment.
Autobots transition and roll out.
This whole
So,
topic is
roll
weighing
around
us down, I suppose.
I'd be worried that there's a Japanese whaling ship outside the building waiting for her.
We have to address the elephant in the room.
oh my God!
I'm trying to think of some way to segue this. I can't. Every time we try.
That's because she's blocking the doorway.
Oh my God!
I think I killed Ryan. Sorry, Ryan. I didn't mean to.
No,
I'm actually crying.
we're all dead. That's it.
We're
We're
all-
all dead. Good night, guys. Have a nice day.
Fat- who said fat women can't be fun?
Oh shit! Hi, everybody.
You spend too much time laughing about Gorthok the Destroyer.
Yeah. I just needed an intro. I had nothing else planned, so I thought, you know what? We'll just grab this. We'll do a quick shout out to True Pop Culture 7 and the Legion of Memers, because we're Legion of Memers members here. And hey, I needed something.
It works for me.
Yeah, it is a funny video, though.
It really is.
But hello, everybody. I only see, like 2 people in chat. I think one of them's me, technically, and then there's Legatus and our good buddy, the Stream Element Spot. So not a whole lot of people in chat. This ain't going to be a super long stream. This is, we're starting earlier than planned anyways, but I wanted to start doing an interview stream, and, as I build up my interview abilities, I needed to start on easy people.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I need to start on the whores, the people that are easy for me to interact with and talk to and ask questions to. So I thought the perfect whore would be Sheila Aliens, but she's busy. So I went to the dime store and found CJP. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing well. How are you, Mr. Dermy?
I'm doing great. So I had to have some sort of fun here.
I don't blame you.
So
I don't blame you.
I mean, so CJP, quick question. Who are you? For those of you in the chat that don't know who CJP is.
Well, I'm a burgeoning YouTuber, but mainly I'm a musician, and that's what I do. My channel's dedicated to the music that I make and produce, and of course I like being on the Legion stream and being part of the Horseman on ETEP's channel. But I'm just a simple guy who used to like stuff that Hollywood decided that they'd like to wipe their ass with and ruin and pee on and stuff in the toilet like a nerd in high school in the 80s.
Oh, well, I continued into the 2000s, but I mean,
Well, yeah.
those toilets, you know what? They were odd. I was lucky that they were usually clean.
Well, yeah, that helps sometimes, but even then the smell was not great.
No, never great. Especially
Or if
after
they
you-
decided to hide you in the pee trough.
Oh, We didn't have one of those, but we had urinals.
We had Petros when I was in elementary school.
We had those tower things, like it wasn't a trough, but it was built into the ground itself, so you could just walk up and just start peeing. You didn't have to really aim; it was just there.
Yeah.
So those were actually kind of cool. I wish they would bring those back.
Well,
Wall mounted area.
That's going to get whipped out these days. So
that's true. So, one of the things you're known for is music. That and also being bald.
I'm not that bald.
You're partially
Some
bald,
hair.
but-
See, look, there's hair there. Somewhat.
But music is like something that your forgotten one music. A lot of things on your channel right now are putting out like 007 GoldenEye clips and editing that music your own way. So, what got you into music?
It was actually a combination of my parents and my sister. My dad played a little bit of guitar. My mom was a vocalist in choir through most of her, junior high and high school years, and even doing it in church and stuff like that. Beyond that, but really, it was my sister. She was she played drums, played guitar, so she really taught me my first chords, my first drum beats. So I've been playing music since I was 10 years old. That's when I got started. And I've just never stopped at any point. I mean, there might be some lulls where I'm not playing full time, but I'm usually doing something musical at any given time.
You know what? Legatus brings up a good point. What's a good genre that you'd be known for? Like,
jeez. Well, I'm a classically trained musician, so I actually have a degree in music.
Classically chained?
Yes, yeah, just like Az.
Okay.
But no, I went
or me on a Sunday night.
I went through junior high, high school, band, college. As I said, I've got a degree in music. So I've been raised on everything from Gregorian chant, Baroque, classical, electronic. I mean, there are all sorts of genres, but really just growing up, and it was really just listening to what my parents did. So my mom, it was a lot of late 50s, early 60s rock and roll, some big band from the 40s. And then with Dad, it was all late 60s, early 70s acid rock, southern rock. So really rock has been what I've mostly been doing, either listening to or performing over the last 25 years.
I mean, rock's rock. It's one of the greatest genres out there, and one of the more I would think it's one of the more expansive genres because you have several different types of rock. But I want to go back for a little bit. What's Gregorian chant?
You never heard Gregorian chant?
Is that like the Mongolian thing where they go like?
No. Gregorian chant was still musical, but there was no instrumentation. It was just all vocal, all choir style. But it was all a cappella.
Okay,
and that's kind of really where Western musical tradition starts. Is from that, and then they started bringing in more instrumentation. As you got into the Baroque period, and then you started more the classical, your Beethovens, Wagners, and Mozarts.
So it would be like the monks on the monastery go like Yoda si Dio. Yep, I know that. I mean, I'm Catholic. We still have some Latin masses, and outside of the organ, it's a lot of times just the chants. So it is beautiful, though.
Oh yeah, it can be. It definitely can be.
So, what's some of the experiences in music that you've done? And I'm working this through and trying to figure out some of these questions. And we'll see.
Like I said, I started off in band in junior high and high school. I played percussion all the way through ending of college. So I did marching band from 8th grade till my sophomore year in college, because then I transferred schools to a college that did not have a football team, so no marching band, but they did have a basketball team, so I would do the pep band and jazz bands and stuff like that. I played with a couple of different symphonies, like Southeast Orchestra, the Southeast Kansas Orchestra, the BSO in Oklahoma. I have played at Kane's Ballroom, which was fun, but it was technically for a private party, but it's one of those venues that like CBGBs, the Cavern Club, places that just have a steeped amount of history. And so we were playing it was a high school reunion it was like class of 87 or something like that. But so I'm in an 80s band in Tulsa. So we played nothing but 80s covers. And they wanted an 80s band. So we played the King's Ballroom that night. I actually got to see in their office, there's a section of wall that's framed. And the reason it's framed is because there's a hole in it towards the bottom. Because it used to be the wall between the green room and the ladies' restroom. And in 1979, the Sex Pistols played the Canes. Sid Vicious wanted to perv on the girls in the bathroom, so he punched a hole through the wall to see into the girls' restroom.
You know, in order to see into the girls' restroom, and for me, it'd probably be the boys' restroom. But in order to see into the girls' restroom, do you think there's a smarter way than just punching a hole? I mean, punching a hole is straight up just rock and roll, but
yeah, I mean, it's the Sex Pistols. He was probably so high on cocaine and whatever that you wouldn't even have felt it. So they actually cut that section of the wall out and put it up on the wall.
oh, never mind. So when you said you got to see the wall framed, I thought, why the hell are they putting a frame on the wall to cover a hole?
No,
No, it's
cut
actually
out that section of the wall and framed it.
okay. That makes more sense now.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a great experience. I love the Canes. It's just, I said, there's so many people that play there, and I said it's been around since the mid 30s. You know, it's like a square dancing. Not really red dirt, but like early country was kind of where they started off.
Somewhere early country, so like kind of bluegrass.
In a way, yeah. Like Bob, I think Bob Wills was the kind of the founder of that genre that they played. But I've seen a lot of concerts there myself of other people that have played there over the years, because they have pretty much any genre you can think of. You can go see at the Canes.
You mentioned the Southeast Kansas Orchestra. I believe I've actually heard them like in person before. I want to see Kansas. Yeah, I mean, I'm also in Kansas, so but they're really cool. I want to say it was them, because a little backstory of me. I used to work at a summer camp
for kids who are about to be molested.
I said summer camp, and I was like, with my reputation, with the tiny chair, with everything like that, this joke's there. In part, I should have expected it. And I was like, maybe we'll just jump across this joke because it's there in plain sight, but maybe we could just not. And
you can't give me that kind of layup and not expect me to spike it.
To be fair, I was trying to figure out a way to spike it as well.
But anyway, you were working at a summer camp for kids.
Yes, I was working at a summer camp. I was in the kitchen. This just keeps not making it better. But one of the things we had to do, and this could help us out, because the summer camp it was a YMCA camp. Again, not helping myself.
Nope.
But it was a very nice YMCA camp, and they would give themselves that's a bad choice of word. They would allow for galas to go on there, because it is this beautiful countryside area. It's tucked away into the tall grass areas, the Flint Hills, and it's just tucked away. It's there mainly to preserve like a lot of the tall grass and stuff, to teach children about the tall grass and how beautiful it actually is, while still having some fun. So they had a Flint Hills orchestra event there to try to raise money for it, and I had to help serve food. That was a nice band that I got here. A nice orchestra, because a band's different than an orchestra, but that was still super nice. God, I do miss that place sometimes, but they won't let me back.
I've played in a few weird places, over my career. One of the worst was they called it a retro pub. So they had, old arcade machines that they never took care of, which of course irked me, because I'm a I've been playing video games since they pretty much came out at this point. But
back when it was a rock and a stick.
pretty much, yeah. And we were playing this outdoor venue, and we were sitting up on a trailer. So they had, a tent underneath it, but it had been kind of misty that day. So they had tarps over the speakers, which they never took off. So all the music sounded, never took the tarps off. The soundboard was in a bread truck off the side of the stage. So we had no one in front of the house listening to how we sounded. We kept blowing their power generator, even though we had no amps on stage. We had hardly anything that ran any power. So it was their issue. And it was a horrible gig. It was one of the worst I've ever played. And it was we just had no control over the sound of it. And we ended up not even getting really paid for it either, like we were supposed to. The only good that came out of that whole thing was watching a really, really drunk chick decide at the end of the show she wanted to help us tear down and load up. And this girl was 10 sheets to the wind drunk. Like worse than I've ever seen Sheila. And she sits down on the side of the trailer. So the trailer's about a good 6-7 feet off the ground. And then she just slides forward like this, face plants into the concrete.
You've told the story. Yeah,
Like
you've told the story before.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know like all the details about it, and you just told it to me without me having to actually pry.
That was the worst gig I've ever played.
I haven't been drunk enough yet to fall flat on my face.
No. It takes a lot of alcohol to get to that point. And then not feel it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I've taken my
gravel like driveway, and she just
Oh God, I've fallen on that stuff. That stuff hurts.
Mm.
Alcohol. That's long and short about.
And that's one of those things that was never a heavy drinker. Really not really much of a drinker at all. Like I'm not a beer guy. I'll make I call it a amaretto sour punch. That's really kind of my drink of choice, and I make it rarely. But of course, a lot of that is what you kind of grow up with your environment. Neither of my parents were drinkers, really. My dad would have like a rum and coke on occasion. That was about it. Never was a beer drinker, so it's a lot of it's kind of environmental. So I just never did. Plus, I had more fun watching my friends in college get drunk and making fun of them the next day than actually participating in myself, because I'd much rather remember the funny shit that went on.
Well, I grew up. There's a way for me to always remember what happens on Ballbusters. Sad thing is I record it, so it's out there. And then usually I take the last week's Ballbusters for this week's intro. That gay test. Anyways, but when it comes to me and drinking, like I grew up around rednecks. You got beer, got whiskey. So I drink beer and whiskey. But right now my beer of choice has decided to go woke, so it's a bunch of whiskey.
Yeah.
But Legatus brings up a good question. You consider that first drunk girl your first groupie?
No, she was just a drunk chick that just didn't know what was going on. But that would have been funny because I never saw her again after that.
So a groupie.
Yeah. But and I've seen my fair share of drunk chicks doing stupid stuff, while playing. So
I mean,
that's always fun to watch. And the other thing is, whenever I'm playing, I never drink when I'm playing. Mm-hmm. The band I'm in, the cover band, that's really our policy. We don't drink on stage. Nor do we have shots, from people while on stage, because we're there to do a job. We're there to get paid to play music to entertain.
And now I'm
like there was a one guy, we called him Towley, but run sound for him and another couple people that I used to work with, because I was at Guitar Center at the time, so obviously hanging out with musicians all the time. But I was running sound for him, and by the third set, he was just so drunk he was like overtly Captain Morganing on the monitor, like he was thrusting his junk out as far as he could, not singing a single note correct. I don't think he played half the set correctly. I mean, he was obviously having a good time, but
Hmm?
I don't abide by that. I think that's just unprofessional as all get out.
Well, I feel kind of personally attacked because I will always take those drinks because I'm an entertainer. And I'm funnier when I'm drunker. But also I'm a degen, so.
Well, yeah.
But, you said something, and I'm trying to remember what the hell it was that I wanted to pry into, but God damn, I forget what it was. Why don't we keep moving along? What was some of your best performances, like some of the best locations, best moments, like
let's say the bars. Like King's Ballroom is one of the big ones for me. We also played a house party at a PGA tour once, which was fun. So we dressed up all in Caddyshack characters.
mm,
They wanted a Caddyshack party, so everyone in the band was a different character from the movie Caddyshack.
including the gopher?
Well, we had the gopher. I have a stuffed one. He's not. Yeah, he's up here. He's the stuffed gopher, and you push the button, he does the little dance, and
he's right next to your beaver.
no, that is the beaver. That's the.
Okay, nice stuffed beaver.
Yeah, nice beaver. Thanks. I just had it stuffed.
I tried. Don't you have a button for that?
I do actually. I wasn't gonna run sound. So where is it? It's here somewhere. Hold on.
Nice beaver.
Thank you. I just had it stuffed.
Let me help you with that.
I still love that movie. Naked Gun's
It's
one
a
of the
good
greatest
movie.
comedies ever.
Yeah, you know what? When I was trying to ask you like your PGA, where you were at, it reminded me of a question I think would be interesting to ask. Why YouTube?
It's just really one of those things that I've been watching a lot of other people since. I got into the fellowship through the whole Susie Lou drama.
Susie Lou drama?
She was a reaction YouTuber who was basically just sitting there watching full episodes of anime.
Oh, I've heard about this, but I didn't know a whole lot about it. It wasn't just her; it was lots of people that were.
Well, yeah,
doing
but
that.
she's decided to pick a lot of fights with different YouTubers, and that's how I found the quartering, and then through that found Neurotic, and that's kind of where my knowledge of those people came into, and then watching Friday Night Tights, and that's when I started doing the memes, and that's when Rox and I got hooked together, and he started talking about doing the Legion, and that's just kind of where it exploded from there. So it wasn't like I was planning on being a streamer, but it just kind of one of those things that fell on my lap, and I'm like, it sounds like fun. I'll give it a shot.
And you know what? You getting connected with Rox, that sounds like a lot of musicians' histories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. It's just knowing people, and hey, this guy, can play drums. That's how a lot of church musicians are. Because I play at church too. So I happened to be. I was at a concert and ran for my daughter. She was playing band, and one of my old mentors from college was there, and he just happened to say, "Oh, they're looking for a drummer at the church." I'm like, "Well, I haven't been back to church in years, but I'd like to get back into playing drums because the band I'm in, I play guitar, so I hadn't really played drums in several years because of that. So he just got me back into playing percussion, which was nice."
Real quick one. Howdy, Paul Hadouken. Sorry if I'm not interacting
Hadouken!
with chat as much. Hadouken! I keep saying it wrong. Sorry if I'm not interacting with chat as much today. I am seeing Legatus's questions and stuff, and I'll bring up a few of them here in a bit. But this is going to be it's a different show than normal. This is my first interview one, and it has to have about 30 more minutes left till we have to hard out. So,
yep, I've got kids, so I got to go get my kids.
Yeah,
the life of a single dad.
I mean, better than me. I have no kids, but also, I simp over somebody that technically can't give you kids.
Well, yeah,
but
that never helps.
I mean, there's adoption. Anyways, moving on, and I try to do a joke back there. Saying musicians and rocks.
Oh gosh, I didn't catch that. That's my bad.
No, I mean, you took it like a champ. You actually continued down. I mean, yeah, I try to do, like a whole OD, yeah, OD, overdosing and all that, and you took it into a better location than I thought you were gonna go.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but
and if people want to hear, kind of me actually playing real instruments, I do actually have some music on my channel. Towards the bottom, it was a demo I recorded in college with a couple of guys, and it's me on vocals for most of it, drums, and I play guitar on a couple of different tracks that we did there.
well, I want to continue down this YouTube route. You getting involved in the Legion and stuff, and I know we got 30 minutes. We were hard on time, but I am curious. Like, so you get involved with Rocks, and you open a channel. Why did you start choosing to put out some of the music you did? Like, why GoldenEye? And then, like, what's your process of like changing these so you don't get hit for something?
Well, and some of them I have actually, but actually, I started the channel before the Legion came about because I'd posted music for my first album. I think starting in 2020, and that was really because of COVID, because we were all locked down. I couldn't go out and play; all the bars were shut down, so there was nowhere for me to actually perform music. So I was like, I've been dabbling in electronic music for years, but never actually had put anything together. So I just started, just writing songs during the shutdown, and that's where Electronic Noise, my first album, came about. And so it was after that I had talked to Rocks, and we kind of gone in that direction. But for the GoldenEye thing, I love the game since I was in college. Well, technically high school, because it came out right as I was graduating. But we
all know you were like 40 when it came out. Okay, it's
I'm only 44 now, you jackass. But no, we played it a lot in college. I mean, 4 controllers, bunch of dudes, some alcohol involved. We had death matches all the time, but the music was always one of the best parts of that game for me. It was just so well crafted for just a game. And I really hadn't really listened to a lot of music soundtracks for games back then, but that one always stuck with me. So over the last year or so, I found the original sound fonts from the game, the ones that they used to actually create it on the cartridge, and I was thinking, originally I just wanted to see, if I could do one of the themes from the movies in the style of the pause watch music. And then as I did that one, it actually started doing a lot more than any of my other stuff I had on the channel. And that's when I was like, well, I'll start doing all the other movie themes. And eventually got to the point where I did every major release in the watch themes. And then I thought, well, I want us to work with the other sounds in the system, and wrote kind of a what if sequel to GoldenEye. But I wanted to do my own original tunes for the different levels, but we're using the sounds and the style of that game to see if I could write in that genre. And that's where it's led to me on that. So it's just been a lot of fun. I like being able to explore with those limitations.
Well, I was listening the whole time you were talking. Don't get me wrong. I was just wanting to look up on the N64. How many notes did the N64 have? Because I know like a lot of these older game consoles, like the Game Boy, for instance, had like 4 notes. So yeah, 4 channels. How many?
The 64 could do up to 32, but they were usually limited to 16.
Okay. So, I mean, let's say that, do you know how many channels that GoldenEye used?
16.
16? So you have 16 channels or notes, however you want to say it, that they made unique music for.
Yep.
That is a feat of just beauty. And I like to go to like Pokemon, for instance. Pokemon at the time, I want to say they only had 4 channels. I could be getting that wrong. It could be 8. But they made 151 unique Pokemon sounds off those 4 channels, and then a myriad of songs off those 4 channels. That is a feat of just beauty right there of what some musicians are capable of. And
when you go back to a lot of music from the 60s, really up until about the mid 70s, well, I said, but in the late 60s is, they only had 4 tracks to work with. The Beatles, most of their catalog was done on a 4-track or an 8-track recorder. That's all they had. So they would have to bounce tracks down to another track to be able to use extra space to be able to record all those different instruments. So those limitations, I think, breed a lot more creativity in my estimate. Because, you look at music now, you have, on any standard board, you've got at least 64 channels with, Pro Tools and DAWs like that. You could technically have up to 1,000. But with all that room, it just kind of breeds lackadaisicalness, I think, is the way I would describe it. They really don't, they have so many options that it all kind of starts to sound homogenized after a while.
Yeah, and a lot of music right now does sound just carbon copies of each other, while back then you had uniqueness. Like and Legatus brings up a good point. I think this is from the movie, not the game. It's been a little while. Because you did the game, not the movie.
Well, the watch themes, I did the actual the theme song that each movie had.
Okay.
So GoldenEye was written by Bono and sung by Tina Turner. So I did those themes. I actually am going to explore some of the other watch themes for like Never Say Never Again, which is not technically a Bond movie. There's the Casino Royale from '67. And of course, there's some alternate songs that they used in different movies that weren't the official main theme, like Surrender by Katie Lang for Tomorrow Never Dies.
I'm one of the weirdos that
really Daylights.
I'm one of the weirdos that really likes Tomorrow Never Dies.
I liked it too. I thought it was a great movie. It's actually a lot more present now when you think about media manipulation of news. I mean, that's kind of ahead of its time when you really think about what Tomorrow Never Dies is about.
I might be getting the one wrong. That's the one with Halle Berry.
No, that's Die Another Day.
Another.
A lot of people kind of poo-pooed because it kind of went off the rails a bit.
Oh, it's 100% off the rails. But I watched that when I was a kid, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, but Tomorrow Never Dies. That was the one with Jonathan Pryce as Elliot Carver. That's the one that had Michelle Yeoh and Terry Hatcher was in it. But he was the media mogul who was setting up, trying to start World War III, basically, so he could get news ratings and be the only person covering the news. And I'm like,
wait, we're talking about movies here, right?
Yeah. But it sounds
we're talking about movies.
Russian Ukraine, It's like, and that movie came out in what, 99, I think, 2000, something like that.
Somewhere around there. But I mean, Paul and Doken brings up a good point. This is something that I was trying to hit on. Like, we have unlimited channels today, and they use it to make trap/drill rap using the same drum machine. Yeah, 100%. One of my favorite, I love Pokemon. Love it to death. When it comes to, I think, objectively, the greatest Pokemon game ever was Diamond and Pearl and then Platinum. But in Diamond and Pearl and Platinum, they had more channels, obviously. This was the more advanced thing. This came out in late 2000s, maybe around 2010s when they came out. And they did something on the final boss theme that was just so beautiful that I'd never heard on a DS before, because you're so used to on these Game Boys being, the 64-bit and stuff like that, and maybe a little bit more, like Kachi or stuff like this. But you get up to the boss, who's Cynthia, who's arguably the greatest champion in all of Pokemon history. I will die on that hill of simping for Cynthia. But as you walk up, you get piano notes, and it sounds like an actual piano was playing as you battle her, and they find a way to make it sound like there's a guitar and everything. It's so beautiful, and they did this on a game system, and I would pull it up to play for y'all. I might be able to pull it up and play for y'all. I don't think
people think I'm weird. One of my favorite video game tunes of all time is the end credits music from Final Fantasy Legend on the original Game Boy.
It's a good one. I mean,
But-
there's also what's another? Most of Final Fantasy VII music is beautiful as
Yeah.
well.
Skies of Arcadia is another one. I really love the soundtrack for that game, but most people had never played it because it was on the Dreamcast. Which they keep begging them to do a remaster of that, and Sega's is like, no, we don't want to make money. We're just gonna do another crappy Sonic game.
Oh, here we go. And I might get hit. I'm willing to take this chance just because this is just this came out of nowhere on Pokemon. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit, but and again, you're used to like the kachas and just those normal Game Boy sounds, but then you hear this. Oh shit. I'm not going to play a whole lot of it, but that's a
great piece.
Yeah, that is just one of those songs that I could turn on at any time and just melt away. And again, it's on the Game Boy. It's on the DS, so the third generation of the Game Boy, but it's still fourth.
Yep.
Because it went Game Boy
Advance, then the DS.
No,
I was working in video game retail when the DS came out.
That it would be in the fifth generation because the SP was before the DS.
Well, the SP it wasn't a Game Boy Advance; it was just a different case and better screen. It was the same hardware though as the Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
So it was no different than the OLED Switch. When you want to think about it that way, because it's just a revision of the existing hardware.
It changed it up a little bit and added a few things here. I love the SP. I thought the SP was the greatest.
I still have my NES version. It had the NES the paint job on it.
Was that I had a simple blue one, and I have it around here somewhere because I still play it. Because I have Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't remember what the game was called, but it was the Battle City Tournament game that came out, and it's such a fun game to play. It breaks all the rules of actual Yu-Gi-Oh! Like even all the other card simulators for Yu-Gi-Oh! Does nothing like this game, but I just like this game because there's certain things that in the real card game nothing actually works this way. So,
well, if you want a weird rabbit hole to go down, something a lot of people don't know about me is the first online group I ever got involved with was the Cover Project. Now, if you've ever been to coverproject.net.
No, what is this?
It's a website where for the last...
Are we about to go down like some RK Outpost stuff right here?
No. This is actually legit good stuff.
Okay.
It's a group we're dedicated to preserving video game art. So we scan, old boxes, NES, SNES, Atari, Genesis, every system you can think of, and putting it in a high DPI JPEG so that you can, download it and make your own cases. We don't charge for them because obviously Nintendo would sue the shit out of us if we did. Although I've seen a bunch of the cases I've made over the years show up on like Etsy and shit like that.
What was this called again?
The coverproject.net. But I've been working with them for, since 2007 or 8.
Oh, I think I've seen this before. I'm just gonna something that we probably all know and love. Let's go. No, where's it? An SNES? Do we Nintendo 64? Here we go. So here, I'll share my screen. So this is essentially it, and then what you would say is, let's say, I just pulled up Nintendo 64, so Ocarina of Time.
So you can see how many different covers people have made over the years. Custom style, both horizontal. They've been making vertical ones so that they like that, so that's a little more custom, and you can make them look nice with the spines matching. And
I kind of like this style just because the different. I can't see. Kind of just how it changes up here, and here I'll zoom in a little bit. I really like that look. I don't know what it is. It's something like that. So you can just go through these and take a look. So game.
Oh yeah, I mean, GameCube. I mean, pretty much anything you can think of. We've tried to cover it. You know, the harder ones is getting PAL and Japanese releases because obviously most of us were US based. But we do have some members who are overseas, so they're able to.
Oh my
Like
god.
if you have a game that you've lost the case for, you can get replacement art.
That is actually a really smart idea. And right now I'm just reminding myself about the Dragon Ball Z Budokai. That was such a fun game.
Like the one thing I've been working on for the last few years, just kind of off and on, is making PS2 size art for PS1 games.
PS2 size
art. Because PS1 are all CD size, PS2 are DVD size, so it's finding ways to creatively make the art look right without it stretching and being weird.
Yeah, that is actually kind of interesting because now that you mention that, game cases have completely changed over the years. I don't think you can see it very well, but I have like back there, I have Switch, 360, and Xbox One cases. 360 was bigger than the Xbox One. And then the Switch is these little dinky things that are completely different than what came prior.
Yep.
Now, I like the Switch cases a whole lot better, especially because inside the cases nowadays, they're putting like interesting things inside the actual box art. Like, I'm going to mute this.
Oh, please don't take your shirt off, Dermy. Please don't.
Anton, I'm not taking off my shirt.
All right, thank you. But yeah, the video game art thing is something I've just been loving to do for years. And then finding creative ways to... My font list is ridiculous at this point.
I'm still trying to get used to like GIMP and stuff. Just because I'm not...
That's why I still use Photoshop for meme making. Because I've been doing nothing but Photoshop for 15 years.
I don't have access to Photoshop, so... But
well, I stopped at CS6 because that was the year before they started... making you pay an annual subscription for that shit.
Yeah, that's stupid. Their subscriptions are also super freaking expensive. I had to do it for college. They gave you a year for free, and then you would have to re-up. Well, when they called me to re-up, it's like, oh yeah, this will cost $600, and it's like, what the? I don't want this. I can't afford that.
Well,
I can barely afford
it's the same way. They went to a subscription model, and I can't find copies of it free subscription model. Because I need to upgrade mine because my copy of Pro Tools is 10 years old. And I really need to upgrade it to be able to work on instrumental music better. I use Cakewalk for the electronic music because it's a lot easier to work with VSTs than Cakewalk, but for recording actual music, I prefer Pro Tools.
That works. And I'm sure like one of the guys who I've been with who I've been talking to showed me a new video editing stuff because I use CapCut now because DaVinci just quit working for me. I don't know why. One day I tried to open it up and it just wouldn't open, and I've re-downloaded it. So, but there's a Microsoft thing I might try out, but it costs $10. Probably not gonna be that bad. But back to the box art thing. So this is hard to see with my lights and stuff, but this is remake of Brilliant Diamond. Well, the remake of Diamond, that's Brilliant Diamond for Switch. What I started loving that they did with the box art is when you open it up, you can actually see the map of the region. And I thought that was just beautiful. So box art is just something unique that you don't get in digital copies anymore. No. Physical is where it's at.
But and I've been collecting because we've been working with a cover project. I've needed to buy games just to scan them. I mean, I've got so many games I've never played because I just simply bought them because we didn't have that particular game on the site, so I'd bought it and would scan it, and so I've got games all the way back to Atari 2600.
Yeah, and you probably have games all the way back again when it was a rock and a stick.
Well, I mean, the first video game system I ever remembered owning as a kid was an Atari 5200. And that system was weird because it was bigger than an Xbox, original OG Xbox. And the controller was just weird looking because it wasn't like a standard 2-hand controller. It was one hand, and you had fire controls on both sides, a keypad, a joystick that didn't have self-centering, so it was, if it was off, it was off, and then start, pause, and reset on the top of it. It was the really, really just strange controller, and I can see why that system kind of failed.
Well, so that's the Atari. I've seen just weird controllers throughout the years. There was because I used to watch back when Geeks and Gamers did, and they'll probably try to bring it back, but it was bragging rights.
Mm.
And they showed this weird gaming console that, depending on the game you got, it came with special like stickers or stuff that you put on the controller.
Oh, the Vectrix.
Yeah. What the hell is that?
Well, the Vectrix they had overlays on the screen because it was actually vector graphics. It wasn't pixel graphics. And it was actually it had its own built-in TV screen.
Oh, I've seen those because I think, didn't like McDonald's used to give those out as dumb toys.
Oh, I don't know about that one. The Vectrix it was one of those, the 80s was such a wild experimental time up until the crash of 84. So you had all sorts of weird stuff coming out. Of course, then he also had porn games on the 2600. I've broken you, haven't I?
Yes. I'm trying to find like these, right here.
Custer's Revenge. The whole point of the game is you're Custer, who's naked, and you have to cross the screen and avoid the arrows getting shot at you to grape the Indian princess tied to the cactus. This is an actual game that came out. I'm not kidding you.
Okay, then. Moving on.
Or beat him and eat him. Basically, you're jizzing off the top of the building, and you're controlling two women and trying to catch it in your mouth.
I hate life right now. Are these like the Vectrix toys that you were talking about? Jesus
No.
Christ.
Yeah, just look up Vectrix. Veetrex, I think is how it's spelled.
VETrex,
I think. Yeah, that's the Vectrix. It was all in one unit, and so they had these overlays that you would put over the screen depending on which game you were playing. That would guide you on where you need to go.
Wonder why it failed.
Yeah. Oh no, it was vector graphics though back in the 80s, which was pretty hard to pull off.
I mean, some of this kind of looks, this is 80s, so I am judging this by like today's standards. And
Exactly.
when I started playing games, which was like in early 2000s, so I was getting like 90s games and stuff, so like early Game Boys and stuff. So like, yeah, I'm jaded on what this are, but if I think about it, in the 80s, this probably was revolutionary and like super cool.
And mainly because the Ataris, the ColecoVisions, and the televisions were all using pixel-based graphics. This was the only one that was actually rendered vector graphics. So it was not pixels, it was actual light that was being used. It's hard to explain, but it was just a different style.
You go back and again, like growing up in the 90s, not 90s, well, 97. So I'm Z technically, but I'm that weird generation where, there's millennials and then there's Z, and I don't like either of them. Oh, I hate it. I'm in that weird area where you're both yet neither.
Yeah, I'm kind of that way. I'm at the tail end of Gen X, technically.
Yeah, I'm at like the very tail end because depending on where you look it up, I'm either still a millennial or a Z. That's how weird it is. But what was I gonna say? Looking back at like some of the weird gaming consoles, it's so fascinating to think like this was a thing people liked.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had a Sega and a Sega. I don't think I had a Sega CD, but I had like the Sega that could become the Sega CD. I got rid of it because it was like, I don't understand this. And now looking back at it, it's like, why did I get rid of this?
Well, and Sega they were trying to throw so much shit against the wall to beat Nintendo. And they just didn't focus on the simplicity in the games. That's what Nintendo's always been great at. Simplicity in games. But with the Sega Genesis, you had the Sega CD add-on, then you had the 32X add-on, and then you had a Sonic and Knuckles add-on that you could add. And it was this giant tower of weirdness that didn't really work all that well together.
And what Sega needed was more of Sega. I'm kind of trying to remember the dude's name because I call him Sega Man, but I know that's not who he is. Segata Sancho. That's what they needed more of. You know who I'm talking about? Yeah, the one man that could arguably beat Chuck Norris.
Well, and the problem with Sega at the time is they didn't have one person calling the shots. With Nintendo, you had Hirohochi Yamaguchi. He was a bastard, and he was a very ruthless businessman, but he also had the final say.
Well, he's
Back
not around anymore, is he?
Yamaguchi? No, he died.
Yeah. When it comes to, this is going to sound super bad. When it comes to Japanese names, they all end up melding together. I can remember your face, but I can never remember your name. And it gets even worse when it comes to Japanese names.
Just remember, if you're going to do Japanese, you do it from a diaphragm. It's always a double. Hirohochi Yamaguchi. Exactly.
Unless you're a girl and you just sound like you're crying.
Well, the Japanese women, whether they're 12 or 80, all sound the same.
You know, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not.
Al was right, though. The Atari Jaguar was another one that had a really weird controller.
I think that's what it was. That was talking about
earlier. One of the Atari I never did own. I had a Lynx, but I never had a Jaguar.
Atari Jaguar. Let me look it up. That's what it was.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because here, and I'll present the screen. The Atari Jaguar, and I saw this on Bragging Rights, where in order to play the game, every game came with like a special, I think they kind of show it here, like every game came with these weird things that you would insert over here to tell you what to do.
And actually that's based off their 5200 controller, because that had the same thing. They had these overlays that you would put over the controller to tell you what the buttons did for that specific game.
Yep, that's what I was thinking about.
Like, look up a Atari 5200 controller. You just got to see
5200 controller. Fudge. What the hell is that?
It was one of the weirdest controllers I'd ever seen. But the problem was the quality was so bad on those joysticks because they didn't self-center. So if it was like slightly off, your aim was completely gone. But the system in the back, that right behind the controller slot, that's actually a flap that you would open up, and that's where you stored your controllers.
Oh, so let me get back. So what you're saying is
next one to that.
Oh shit, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to see, but
yeah,
so this would actually open up,
and that's where you stored your controllers. But that's why it is such a big system. I mean, you're talking, this thing's about 3 feet wide, 2.5 feet deep, and maybe 1.5 inches tall.
I cannot speak. Advances. I was trying to say invincives, and that's not a word. Yeah. Advances in technology. We no longer have these massive systems that can barely play anything. Now we have tiny little things that can run Tears of the Kingdom.
Exactly. I mean, when you just think about the storage, from PC games over the years,
yeah,
or even just loading Windows. Windows, I think 3.1 was 10 floppies, if I remember right, to install.
thank God for war games because I know what a floppy is.
I mean, I'm old enough to actually remember 5 1/4 inch floppies.
You know, I'm
The
not.
big thin black ones.
I'm not. There's a joke there. Yep, there's a joke.
Like I was amazed when the 3 1/4 inch floppies came out.
You were
Plastic ones.
amazed by the big thin floppy, the big black thin.
No, when they were smaller, because they went from about this big to about this big.
Oh, they went to the more white size.
Yeah, they were more square, like the save icon that you always see. That nobody knows what that is anymore because nobody has an A drive and a floppy disk anymore.
I mean, I know what those were because those were again. I grew up in. Shut up, Alf. I grew up in this weird time in this weird area. Like my hometown is about, I like to say it's 5 to 10 years behind the rest of the world. So it was early 2000s and we still had dial-up. So I had dial-up when a lot of people quit having dial-up. I didn't have Wi-Fi until at least 2012. And then it was like, oh my God, why didn't we have this prior? But I mean, we've had floppies and shit. We've had floppies around for a long time in our house, and now we don't have them around anymore. And I'm scared of Alf making another penis joke.
Tiny floppy.
Tiny
At least you don't have a floppy jalopy.
No, but you weren't around for my rant yesterday.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I had to work on my car. I now have a vendetta against car manufacturers that is worse than before. I've always had kind of a vendetta against them, like how much I despise their decisions and the things that they do. Now it is 10 times what it used to be. All I had to do was replace on my 2003 Dodge Grand Caravan. It's a minivan, but it gets me from point A to point B. That's the important thing. All I had to do was replace my front AC blower because apparently I had an electrical fire a couple months back. Didn't really know, but hey, I'm still here. And in order to replace the blower, you have to actually rip up the carpet, tear out the insulation to reach one bolt in the very back.
Oh yeah, those are always fun. I had a Mazda 626 and the alternator went out on it. And on most cars, your alternator is kind of up on the top towards the back. No, Japan decided we wanted to put it on the bottom of the engine. Yeah, I had to actually have this thing put up on blocks just to get the alternator and get it replaced. Like, why would you put that there?
You know, I hate where they put the alternators now because even on like Toyotas, I've had to replace tons of Toyota alternators. They're on the side for some reason. They're still easier to get to, but they're in more side locations. But underneath the freaking thing, I hate these people. You know what? Where's the day of saying, hey, you know, these are gonna go out. People are gonna have to repair them. Some people aren't gonna pony up the money to have our special tools touch them. Why can't we just put these in easy to reach places?
Listen, I noticed our time, so I'm gonna have to bounce here pretty quick. But I wanted to do a debut because this has not been put on my channel yet. This is the latest track for my second electronic noise album. So hopefully the audio is working. Let me know if it doesn't. But you ready for a debut?
Yeah, let's do it. So you did all of this, right?
Yep. And I made the background by hand in Photoshop. I like to make my own album covers. I figure I've got the know-how, might as well.
Yeah. Are you still good on time?
Yeah.
This is just so cool. That is freaking cool. And I agree with Paul Hadoken in a different way. I think it is like a more sci-fi-ish kind of video game soundtrack, but it's so freaking cool.
Well, and that's, the way I've been doing the naming on all the songs is just kind of, what does this make me think of, but in one word? That's why with this one is Cosmos, because it just made me think space.
You thought space, I thought internet.
I can see that too. Definitely see that too. I know it was a question earlier. Lagonas asked, how many instruments I do play. Of course, percussion, everything from mallet percussion, marimbas, vibes, chimes, obviously snare bass. I play timpani back when I was in the symphony several times. And of course, just a standard drum set. I've played those for years. But I do play guitar, bass. I do know some piano because obviously I couldn't do the synth stuff without it. And mandolin. I learned mandolin for one song in the band I'm in. And then from there, it's like, no, I want to keep playing this thing. It's kind of neat.
You mean like the Mandalorian?
No, just it's a tiny little,
Isn't that you mean a ukulele?
No, it's a mandolin. It's like a 12-string guitar, only all 8 strings, like they're tuned in pairs, but it's tuned opposite of a guitar, so it's more like how a violin is tuned. So it's tuned in fourths, not fifths.
I know what a mandolin is. Okay. I had to look it up real quick because I was about to go insane because I could have swore I knew what it was. Then you said they were tiny, and I'm like, that's a ukulele. You've had it on stream before. I forgot about that.
Yep. I was annoying Sheila with it.
Was it Sheila or was it somebody else?
That was Sheila. She was getting annoyed by me. It was just kind of faint in the background. Like I didn't actually have it plugged into anything.
Well, I mean, I have I'm going to show it here. I have something ready for Sheila tonight.
Oh.
And I swear, and I've never done that, and I swear to, I have no idea who the hell, she's a Mr. whack President, job.
That's perfect, actually.
I have several of just Donald Trump for her. I have the dog and cat. I have You're a Nasty Person.
Yeah, I was waiting for that one.
I have one that Raster showed me a while back, which is Shut Up, Silly Woman. I think my personal favorite. Before we end out, and because I know you're short on time, so
Yeah. Like I said, I'm still wearing work clothes, so
let me just show you this last clip.
Why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out.
oh, he was so on point that night.
It was great, and
It was vintage Trump.
there's just so many moments throughout that whole thing that I captured. And it's like I'm gonna have to go through step by step to find the best moments of him. But there's several of them I can't play on YouTube. So
Well, yeah.
But anyways, thank you, CJP, for coming on, because I know you're strapped for time.
Mhm.
You got this thing called kids and
Family.
the life.
It's weird.
You know, these things that they require food. Don't know why they can't just take care of themselves. But
I keep complaining though. My youngest actually does a good chunk of the cooking now.
well, that's good.
She's
now you got
she's learned how to do a lot of stuff. So
you
I don't
can have your
it's nice.
you can have the oldest clean the house and the youngest can cook for you, and you're perfectly fine.
Yep. We had
But,
everyone in the chat for stopping by, and there were not a lot of you, but you were small and mighty, and I appreciate
that's
you.
right. Yeah, that's right. That's what girls usually say about my dick. Anyways, but thank you guys for coming around. Thank you, CJP. Hey, where can people find you?
Well, so you can find me at Forgotten One Music on YouTube, where I post the music that I perform and play, and then on Saturdays and every once in a while on a Tuesday, I'll be with Dermy on the Legion meme stream. I will be here tonight for Ballbusters.
That's right.
And then also Monday, Wednesdays, and normal Saturdays, except for this one, you can find me on Etepokuin's The Place to Be Reviews. I've joined as a member of the Horsemen there, so I'm on their Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday shows. So I'm quite a busy schedule for a guy who never actually planned on doing this 6 months ago.
No, you know, a few months ago, it was Anime Matsuria. I didn't think I would be here, and look at me now.
Yep.
So, but again, thank you for coming on. Chat, thank you for hanging out with us. It was a great time, and I think it's time to wrap it up. So I'm going to do this. Now you're just going to find something to, be like, hey, but I'm just going to